London, 1650, a city of contradictions. Medieval tangles of timber and thatch, housing nearly 400,000 people, one of Europe's largest cities. The Thames cuts through its heart, brown and busy, carrying everything from fresh water to filth. To enter this world, you must first pass through the gates. The old Roman walls still stand, and at Aldersgate, carts queue as officials collect customs duties. Beyond these gates lies a world we can barely imagine, where the past still clings to every corner, and the modern world is just beginning to take shape. Once inside, the senses are overwhelmed. Follow the crowds to Leadenhall Market. The medieval street plan here survives to this day. In the 1650s, this is where the city comes to trade. Wool from the north, leather goods, livestock driven through muddy lanes. The smell would have been overwhelming. Look closer at these transactions. Wool is England's economic engine. These merchants are middlemen in a trade network, stretching from English sheep farms to European textile centres. Every transaction recorded, every quality inspected. Commerce built on reputation. From Leadenhall, the wealthier merchants make their way west to Cheapside, cheap meaning market in Old English. This is where London's wealth concentrates. Goldsmith shops line the street. Their hanging signs the only form of advertisement in a largely illiterate city. Each sign approved by the guild, each business regulated, but all roads and all commerce eventually lead to the Thames, London's true main street. Thousands of watermen work these waters, rowing passengers across in flat-bottomed wherries. It's faster than navigating the congested lanes above. Regulated fares keep transport affordable twopence from the city to Westminster. And there, where all these river journeys converge, stands Old London Bridge. Construction began in 1176, or the 12th century, and by the 1650s it remains the only bridge crossing the Thames in London. But as we draw closer, we see this is no ordinary bridge. It's a complete street, lined with buildings that rise multiple stories high. Step onto the bridge itself. Walking across means squeezing through a narrow lane between overhanging shops and houses. The buildings are so close they nearly touch overhead. Below your feet, the Thames rushes through narrow arches, a treacherous passage that drowns unwary boatmen attempting to shoot the bridge. And at the southern gatehouse, a grim reminder of state power awaits. The heads of executed traitors, preserved in tar, displayed on pikes. This practice has continued for centuries and won't end until 1660, when Charles II returns and removes the last heads, including that of Oliver Cromwell himself, posthumously executed. Follow the Thames eastward from the bridge, and soon the river bends toward London's ultimate symbol of power, the Tower of London. For nearly 600 years, this Norman fortress has served as palace, prison, and treasury. In the 1650s, it holds prisoners of the Commonwealth Royalists, who backed the wrong side in the Civil War. The yeoman warders guard them still. Travel upriver in the opposite direction, and you reach the seat of government itself, Whitehall Palace. Sprawling along the Thames, it's the largest palace complex in Europe, over 1,500 rooms. But in the 1650s, there's no king. Oliver Cromwell governs from here as Lord Protector, living in rooms once occupied by Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. Inside these halls, the great rooms now host Commonwealth administrators rather than royal courtiers. The Puritans who run England have banned theatres, restricted public celebrations, and imposed a strict moral code. It's a London without elaborate Christmas festivities, without maypoles, a London trying to reinvent itself under Republican rule. But the Puritans can only control so much. Cross the Thames to Southwark, and the rules have traditionally been more relaxed. Outside the city's direct jurisdiction, the South Bank has long hosted entertainment, theatres, bear-baiting pits, and taverns. These circular wooden structures once held London's most famous playhouses. The Globe burned down in 1613 during a performance of Henry VIII. A cannon fired as a special effect set the thatched roof ablaze. It was rebuilt, then demolished by Puritan authorities in 1644. In 1650, public theatre is illegal. These spaces stand empty or converted to other uses. The theatrical tradition lies dormant, waiting for the restoration. Back across the river, a new kind of gathering place is emerging. Enter the coffee house, a revolutionary phenomenon in 1650s London. The first English coffee house opens in Oxford in 1650. By 1652, London has its first. Established by Pasqua Rosé in Street Michael's Alley, Cornhill. Step inside. For a penny, the price of admission, any man can enter, drink coffee, read pamphlets, and debate the issues of the day. That's why they're called penny universities. Here, class matters less than the quality of your argument. Ideas spread faster than ever before. These establishments will eventually birth institutions like Lloyd's of London and the London Stock Exchange. Of course, not everyone chooses coffee over ale. Traditional alehouses and taverns remain popular. Beer is considerably safer than water, and the average Londoner consumes several pints daily. These are spaces for gossip, business deals, and news both reliable and rumoured. Leave the taverns and coffee houses behind, and wind your way through London's residential lanes. They're narrow, dark, and cramped. Buildings lean out over the street, each floor jutting further than the one below. This jettying maximizes living space in a crowded city. On the ground, refuse accumulates between the cobblestones. Here, daily survival plays out in the open. Street vendors sell everything: bread, vegetables, water from the Thames. Women dominate this trade, their cries advertising their goods: hot pies, fresh mackerel. Most Londoners live in single rooms with minimal cooking facilities, relying on street food and cook shops for meals. Look up from these crowded lanes, and towering over everything stands Old St. Paul's Cathedral. Its magnificent spire was lost to lightning in 1561 and never rebuilt. By the 1650s, the building suffers from serious decay and neglect. The nave has become a shortcut for pedestrians and a marketplace for vendors. It's known as Paul's Walk, a far cry from a sacred space. This London, cramped, wooden, medieval, is living on borrowed time. In 16 years, everything will change. September 2nd, 1666. Just past midnight, a fire starts in Thomas Farriner's bakery on Pudding Lane. Farriner is the king's baker. His family escapes across rooftops. Their maid, too frightened to jump, becomes the fire's first victim. Within hours, the fire becomes unstoppable. The summer has been exceptionally dry. The buildings are timber, and a strong east wind is blowing. The flames spread from house to house, street to street. London has no organized fire brigade, just leather buckets, fire hooks to pull down burning buildings, and ineffective hand-pumped squirts. For 4 days, the fire advances. On September 4th, it reaches Old St. Paul's Cathedral. The lead roof melts and pours down like molten rivers. The stone itself cracks from the intense heat. Samuel Pepys, watching from a distance, records the horror in his diary. The cathedral that took centuries to build is destroyed in hours. When the fire finally stops on September 6th, the devastation is staggering. Approximately 13,200 houses destroyed, 87 parish churches gone. Old Street, Paul's, the Royal Exchange, the Guildhall, all in ruins. Official records list only 6 deaths, though the true number is likely much higher, particularly among the poor whose deaths went unrecorded. But from these ashes, a new London begins to rise. Within days, Christopher Wren and others propose ambitious plans for rebuilding with wide boulevards and grand plazas. These radical redesigns are rejected, property rights are too complex, and Londoners need to rebuild immediately. But new building regulations are enforced. Brick and stone construction only, wider streets, and better access for firefighting. Where the old cathedral once stood, Wren achieves his masterpiece. The new St. Paul's Cathedral. Construction begins in 1675 and continues for 35 years. Wren is 78 when his son places the final stone on the lantern atop the dome. His Baroque design becomes London's new defining landmark, visible from miles away, a phoenix rising from the ashes. London's story has one more extraordinary chapter before the century ends. Winter 1683 to 1684. The Thames, that constant highway we've followed throughout this journey, freezes solid. This isn't unprecedented. The river froze regularly during what historians call the Little Ice Age. Old London Bridge, with its narrow arches, restricts the river's flow, making freezing more likely. When the ice reaches several feet thick, Londoners transform disaster into celebration. They hold a frost fair directly on the frozen Thames. Temporary streets are laid out. Tents and booths appear. What was a highway becomes a carnival. There's an ox roasted whole on the ice. A printing press operates, producing souvenir cards stamped on the Thames. Puppet shows, bowling, ice skating. Entire taverns operate on the frozen river. Contemporary accounts describe thousands gathering on the ice, celebrating winter's strange gift. King Charles II himself visits the fair. The frozen Thames will host several more frost fairs over the following decades, with the last great one occurring in 1814. After that, the Thames never freezes this solidly again, partly due to climate change, and partly because the new London Bridge, completed in 1831, no longer restricts the river's flow. Walk through London today, and you're still walking through echoes of the world we've explored. The medieval street plan around Leadenhall Market, still there. The Thames flows on, unchanged. St. Paul's Dome still dominates the skyline. London, in the 1650s, wasn't just a moment in time, it's a foundation we still build upon. If you'd like to see more reconstructions like this, consider subscribing. History has countless stories still waiting to be told.